In a world where truth and sovereignty intertwine, a groundbreaking video series is emerging. Journey through the depths of sovereignty, understanding its principles and the quest for objective truth. Uncover what's right, what's wrong, and how model behavior shapes us. Explore the transgressions of natural law and embrace objective morality. This isn't just a series, it's a call to awaken the sovereign within, challenging us to align thoughts, emotions, and actions. Dare to stand against injustice, embrace internal sovereignty, and redefine freedom. Be ready to challenge the status quo, discover the undeniable truth, and redefine what it means to be truly sovereign. A comprehensive presentation and exploration of sovereignty, coming soon to a device near you.
Hey guys, Gavin here from Sovereign Empowerment. So I'm here to do a very quick introductory video to another video that I did with the other Damien. So this is the guy that's on the channel talking about the 1215 Magna Carta and the Constitution. We learned a few lessons from those video series in that they were just too long, too much information. And I'll be honest with you, we know that it's not the most interesting information. It's like if you've really got a really sort of strong drive to learn it, then fair enough. But for most people, it's just too much. So what we decided to do was a new series, and we were going to break that into different topics of around sort of 15, 20 minutes max. So the first video was meant to be on the topic of sovereignty, and we were going to talk about parliamentary sovereignty as well, or how that's a load of rubbish. But the point is, Damien and I, like the other Damien, when we talk, we kind of go off on one, and that's exactly what happened with this one. So we thought, you know what, we'll give it a go at editing and see if you guys like it. So that's what we've done. It is broken into different segments now. And the topics in there, I think there's some really good stuff for you guys. So that's why we're going to put it out there. Now, just to be clear, obviously, you know, we're all about using their laws, their legislation against them. Okay. And as you probably know from the previous videos, I just talk about it. I don't have any energy attachment to that stuff. And I see it for what it is, but it's just a tool that we can use to do what we need to do to litigate and obviously get our remedies. With that said, you know, there's a lot of talk about the Bill of Rights and Constitution and Magna Carta and all these other different things. And what Damien's done is a lot of digging. And I think it's fair to say that, let's just kind of simplify this. There are certain narratives around history and law that appear to be true and factually true. And we know, I think, these days how that can be done. You know, you can take a fact and you can spin it into a completely different narrative. And if you don't sort of scratch the surface, you generally end up believing that narrative. And we've been victims of that. We've all seen this stuff done, even in the last 4 years, right? We know that that happens. Why would that not be happening with history, with law, and with what we're dealing with right now? I think I know, because we've got the proof of that. And some of that stuff we can actually show you in this video now. So with that said, what we're going to be presenting is a series of videos. They will be different topics like sovereignty, etc., like Magna Carta 1215, like jury trials, trial by jury, I should say, sorry, different topics around historical truths. But we're going to be bringing different truths, I think, that others haven't necessarily brought out yet. And these are all truths that you can research and prove for yourself. But they're truths that we think bring a different perspective to current truths being discussed right now. And that's the reason why we're doing it, because I don't know about you guys, but certainly for me, I only want the truth. I don't really care about anything else. It's the truth or nothing, no matter how hard that is or how controversial it is to deal with it. If we can't talk about the truth as adults, then what the hell are we all doing here? Do you know what I mean? So with that said, here's Damien.
The etymology of sovereign. The word sovereign is derived from the Latin adverb super, which means above, beyond. The second half stems from the word regnum, which means reign, rulership. When I say rulership, like being externally imposed rulership, and control and kingship. The word sovereign means one who is above the rulership or control of another. Therefore, the word sovereign means not a slave. Now, I'm not sure that everyone can actually say they're sovereign from that standpoint with stuff that they're doing or how they're acting on a daily basis, because there can't really be any sort of contradiction when it comes to sovereign, because it's got a lot to do with natural law.
Yeah. So that would be, yeah, it does. So just to simplify that, if you're out there right now and you're challenging council tax, or all these different things that you challenge, and you are in a fear-based mindset, worried about this, that, and the other, you can't claim to be sovereign. Would that be correct? Because your internal state is still in a fear-based situation.
I think as well, with the current legal system and all the kind of the aliases that we go under within the legal system, the classic, the person, the citizen, the subject, the this, the that, that isn't really being sovereign, because when we look at the meaning of them words, it points to slavery. So you're under the dominion of another, basically, if you're taking on them names. I call them slave names now. I just don't have any interest in wearing that.
It's interesting because even for me, I will not consciously use the word person anymore. We just normally would talk about things. Oh, that person over there. Oh no,
Yeah.
I've changed the word to individual. I won't use the word person. And it's little things like that. I won't use the word citizen. It's being consciously aware, I think, is the first step in gaining that sovereignty, that you've got to be aware of the words that you're using and the real meaning of them. So if you're using those in ignorance, I think you can't claim to be sovereign. You're still within the slave mindset.
This is it. Yeah. Because it has to come together. You have to be sovereign internal. If you're not, to me, if you're contradicting that, if you're stating that you're sovereign, but you're still acting in a system that is enslaving humanity, then it's an oxymoron, isn't it? It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's not true sovereignty, is it? It's not true sovereign.
What do you say to these people? I've done this myself, so I'm not calling anybody out because I did it, but there was a point where I used to send off various affidavits to different people claiming my sovereignty. What do you think about people that do that right now?
I just don't think, without sounding rude in any way, it's nonsense, isn't it? If we're trying to basically beg someone else to hear that we're stating that we're real sovereign men and women, it doesn't make sense, does it? What are we asking for? Are we asking for somebody to recognize or acknowledge that we're sovereign, when really, like, we're born sovereign, aren't we? Sovereignty is something, it's not something that can be taken away. It's basically your born God-given rights.
That's exactly it now.
Do you get what I mean?
It
doesn't, when asking somebody to, it's like these people who, like, I've seen it on the chat, to be fair, and they're asking what's the letter process to become sovereign? And I'm like, a letter process? Don't get me wrong. When I first started looking at all this, I was looking at that because what we were trying to do was navigate the legal system, the corrupt legal system, like being sovereign, and that can't happen. And that's the whole oxymoron now that I've realized. Like, I realized once I started reading and taking other people on board, William Keats, Mark Passio, loads of others, Larkin Rose is another one. To me, it just doesn't make sense. I don't think people understand the true meaning of being sovereign. I don't think you can be sovereign and navigate the system, because this system isn't set up for sovereign people. It's just as simple as that. You're a slave, aren't you, in this system, in this legal system? So there's no way you can be sovereign, because it's a conflict, isn't it? It's a contradiction.
Yeah, but this is the thing, because I agree with everything you're saying, and there'll probably be people watching this now saying, Gavin, you're a kind of a contradiction here, because aren't you in the system litigating with all these different things? And I am, and I want to address it as well, because I'm absolutely on the same page that Damien's on. But I think there's a difference between Damien's view on it and mine in that I look at it like we are sovereign, but we're in a transitional moment of time where this matrix still exists. And just for me personally, I look at this stuff called legislation, this man-made. This is the thing, right? Let me just clarify that. Man's made it. Man created these words with different meanings. Man has done all of it. And it's created a system that now restricts our freedom of choice. And for me, if you're restricting anybody's God given freedom of choice, then that's tyrannous. And so it explains the situation that we're in right now, right? But at the same time, I look at them as useful tools, like legislation used in the right way are useful tools to shut down a debt claim, as an example, or shut down the way a council might try and enforce something, where by not dealing with it, the outcome of that could be pretty bloody bad for people. But the point is, it's a contradiction. I think if you're giving energy to this law, that this system it can be fixed, it just needs a little tweaking here and there to remove the corruption. I don't subscribe to that. I think the whole thing's BS. It all needs to come crashing down. And with that said, I'll hand back to Damien. I just wanted to clarify where I sit within this whole thing.
To be fair, Gavin, I think a lot of people use that platform to do certain things. And if it makes it clear where people become conscious of themselves and it helps people understand, then as collective consciousness will raise through that
100%.
learning process, if you get
Yeah.
what I mean, without saying, oh, don't do this or don't do that, because I'm not suggesting to anybody do something or don't do it. It's down to each individual.
It's again,
You
freedom
know what
of
I mean?
choice. Yeah, absolutely, man.
I know people will watch this video and they'll probably continue to do what they're doing as a matter of maybe they have to because they're so far into something that there's no going back. It could be the repercussions could be bad, but I'm not suggesting this kind of stuff. We can't go into a court of law and start saying to judges, I'm sovereign.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
you're in their world.
it's exactly, it's, as I said, this whole thing is an oxymoron. What people need to understand is that they can either be sovereign outside of the system with a new, if anyone's watched previous videos, I'm all about trial by jury, governance by trial by jury. So in that system, I think you can exercise sovereignty, you can exercise morality, you can.
Distinctly lacking from the legal system right now, sovereignty and morality. So if you have a system that embraces sovereignty and morality, I think that's a system we all will welcome, I'd say.
Oh, yeah. But I don't think this system, through the whole but being usurped over a period of time, has been a system where it's been any different. I think it's set up for you to be a slave in that system. I can't see, I know people get wins, do certain things within the legal system, but as a whole, and I'm not just talking about debt related stuff, I'm just talking about the political spectrum in general, how we perceive democracy, how it's been played off. Sorry, mate, just let me.
Okay.
Yeah, as I was saying, it's the whole political spectrum and the way our democracy's been usurped as well. Again, I was in the chat this morning and it was dead. And it wasn't a bad comment as such, but there was a guy and I think somebody made a big post about democracy and when are we getting it back and this, that and the other. And another guy came on and was like, democracy is mob rule. We need to get back to, I think he was saying, a constitutional republic or words to that effect. But the fact that he didn't know what democracy was because he was calling it mob rule, which again is another, like an oppressive system where there is a group of common people, but it's by means of force again. It's not democracy as we should all understand it with the trial by jury, with our own self-governance, like judging on the legislation. Legislation wouldn't be anything because we're meant to have the final say on it. And this is the whole This is the whole topic that I don't think people understand surrounding the annulment process, where the jury have every right to just disregard legislation if it's unlawful.
Just for
So,
people, I know we don't want to get too much off topic because we're talking about sovereign, but I think it would be useful if you could give like a very quick run through of what does it mean to have this trial by jury? Why is this so important? I think they'll get an indication of why they removed it.
so under the constitutional monarchy, it's a limited monarchy. So you've still got the branches of, I hate to use the word government now because I don't even believe in governments. I'm just going to call it like a system of support rather than calling it government, because I hate using that word because I don't believe in authority whatsoever anymore, to be fair. So you've got holders of office, the head of state, you've got the legislature. They can write legislation, and the Queen or the King or the head of state has the moral duty and responsibility to basically refuse royal assent to any legislation that infringes on people's individual rights or infringes on the Constitution. At the same time, that branch of government, the legislature, they shouldn't be writing legislation that does that. In this system, let's say the legislature wrote something that was unlawful, and the king or queen, the head of state, I'd like to say, gives royal assent, but then the people are the last means of testing that legislation with the trial by jury system. So if they deem that legislation to be unlawful or infringing on people's rights, then it gets annulled. You've got the right to annul it. So
How powerful is that? We wouldn't be in the tyranny, would we?
I don't think in this current system now. I remember William Keith saying something like 2 or 3% of cases actually see a trial by jury, and a lot of the time it's not set up how it should be set up. The judge is still kind of guiding the jury on the law, basically on the legislation, which really shouldn't be happening.
Yeah,
it would. In reality, under that system, it would only take one member of the jury to annul legislation. Now, I'm not saying that would happen in every single case, but it just shows you how powerful it is and how important it is that people aren't actually found guilty of something that's unlawful.
Yeah.
It's basically a system of morality.
Yeah.
Rather than people writing laws and saying, well, they don't write laws, they write legislation, and saying that if you're guilty, I'm not saying that these people aren't guilty of breaking that legislation, but is that legislation lawful, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
How I see it. So
99% of the time, no.
if you look at any tax, it's slavery, isn't it? It's forced slavery. You're basically working and somebody's taking a chunk of your money.
Yeah.
So if I say to you, let's say you earned X amount, they take 40% of that money, or let's say they took all that money, what would you deem it to be?
Theft.
Yeah, it's theft. And it's slavery, basically, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what about like 80% of your wages, 60% of your wages?
It's all the same, isn't it?
It's all the same, isn't it? So
Yeah.
any form of taxation is theft.
Yep.
It, to me, is slavery. There's no two ways about it, because
it comes down to slavery, I think. If, like, at the end of the day, if you don't have a choice in the situation, then you're enslaved. That's it. And obviously, we know there is a choice in tax, but as far as they're concerned, they like the narrative that you have no choice. Certainly, with anyone fighting council tax, that's exactly the answer you get. You don't have a choice.
You're working for your money, and these people are taking it.
Yeah.
To me, it's just being under the dominion and control and authority of another person, which is a slave.
Yeah.
If anybody knows anything different, that it isn't being a slave, then we can have that conversation.
I think this point, I'm at a point now that there's a lot of people out there saying different things. We're all on our journey. We're all going at our different paces. But the bottom line is, There's other people that say, "Oh, show us the evidence, show us the evidence." It's not even about that anymore. The truth resonates, right? The stuff you talk about with big. Let's go back to being sovereign. Let's keep it on that topic.
Yeah.
We don't need to provide proof for this stuff. It resonates because it's true. And I think that's the guide we need right now. Like people that hold people to account for evidence. And I get the reason for evidence. I do understand it. But equally, a lot of the stuff we're talking about is just what's morally right. Like, why is it wrong to talk about what's morally right and how that should be in a system of, and I hate governance, I was going to say there, but in a system that, what's the word I'm looking for? Because should we even have systems of control or anything like that if we're truly sovereign? I think there's got to be a balance between how you bring a system in for humanity to function and live, but how you retain true sovereignty for people.
I think the whole trial by jury is probably the only system that I've come across that allows you to flex sovereignty. But it allows you to flex internal sovereignty. So based on the principles of natural law, that you have your right to basically anything that doesn't cause harm to another sentient being is basically natural law. So anything outside of that, you have the right to do. So you can't have an authority, a government, or a monarchy, or whatever it is, a republic, a president, telling you what your rights are and what they're not. Your rights are your rights, that's it. And sovereign rights, like being sovereign, that's inherent. That's just you're born with. You can't give it away and nobody can take it.
And that's the key thing. You just said it there as well. Like you can't have somebody else telling you what your rights and this and that are. And that to me just comes down to the simplicity of how we've ended up where we are, in that we have been programmed, I don't know what the right word would be, but we naturally give away our authority. We actually look externally for somebody to tell us what we can and can't do, what is and isn't right. That's the reason we're in this situation. And so that's why when you talked about internal sovereignty, it really resonated with me, because I think that's what people are missing. Even those that are professing to be awake are missing the internal aspects of this. And I find this, again, just my own journey. I can only speak for myself. Back in 2020, I was an atheist before that. I spiritually awoke. That's where I think the sovereignty stuff really resonated with me. My brother, as an example, professes to be wide awake, knows all the same sort of things, but he isn't spiritually awake. And therefore, there's major differences in terms of like how I'm operating in life now and moving forward, because I embrace the spirituality and the sovereignty part versus what he's doing, because it's just not there. It's still in that 3D matrix. So this word sovereign doesn't really resonate, is the right word. It doesn't make sense to him.
I think you're right in what you said, but there has to be, you have to strike a balance between the physical and the spiritual, because you can't, your brain has to be firing on all cylinders. If that makes sense. It's about like self-ownership.
You can't be in the way I look at it, the internal perspective comes first, because if you're currently existing in a fear-based mindset, for whatever reason, it doesn't matter, there's no way you're not doing the work to be sovereign, because the internal part's messed up. You're not controlling the energy.
There's a lot of work to do, a lot of shadow work, and this is the difficult part of it. And I'm still going through that process. Don't get me wrong, I'm still paying taxes. I'm still in the system. So I'm still under the control and rulership of another. I'm still a slave. You know what I mean? I haven't just woke up one day and I'm sovereign. I think everything is based on knowledge. I think people need to understand what it is. And as a collective, when that collective consciousness is raised, then you can start making significant changes. If people's thoughts are to be sovereign and they understand what this means and they walk away from that kind of stuff on a mass scale, there isn't anything that anybody can do.
I completely agree. And I actually think it's inevitable because of that collective consciousness. They can't put that genie back in the bottle.
Because everything manifests as a thought.
Yeah.
Before any real change can happen in the physical world. So our consciousness needs to be raised to a level where we understand sovereignty, we understand right and wrong. We understand natural law. We understand morality, and we understand this system that will allow us to have all them things where we can basically decide on the nature of society, that what we want to live in. We make that ourselves. We're not part of another society dictated to by dictators, by governments, by rulers. No, that's not what it's about. We're not built to be them people. That's why we're always in a state of fear.
That's right.
This
Yeah.
whole working 7 days a week and trying to earn money for this, that, and the other. And by the time you've earned your wages, half of it is gone. That's just fear based. You can't do the things you want to do. You can't go on holiday. You can't do things with your children. That money is just extorted out of you. And this is why, I'm not saying everybody is, but why most, especially working class people, are probably miserable. I know I'm not happy. I'm not
Yeah.
happy with the situation of not
I
seeing
don't-
the end of what I actually work hard for, when people are just deciding where my money's got to go. Do you know?
Yeah.
And to be honest, the whole monetary system and all that, we know all that stuff without getting into all that palaver. It's I see money as a choice in this system as it stands now. We don't really have a great deal of choices when we haven't got money.
Yeah.
Really, that's the crux of it. Everyone can say, "Oh, you can do this, you can do that," and you can't. You can go camping, you can do various things, but if you really want to do stuff, this system's been built on that, where people are just they're working. I work with people who don't have a day off in 2 weeks, working solid, overtime and all that to get money to just maybe fix their car or something, or a bill that's come in that they haven't expected or something. That's no way to live, is it? That's not really freedom, is it?
No,
That's not sovereignty. That's not being sovereign.
that is the
You know,
definition of slavery.
I would like it to be completely stripped back. I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but the only reason I want to talk about this is so people understand and get that knowledge, because you'd either know or you're ignorant. To me, that's the crux of it. That's the crux why we're slaves, because we don't know any better, or we don't. To be fair, this stuff, it takes time. And I don't think people are prepared to sit down and read or.
It takes application. You're right. You've got to want to learn it. You've got to want to know it. And you're right about that, because it's not for everyone. But
I
that's why I
just think
think that's
people
why I
want
talk
to.
about resonance all the time. If
Yeah,
it resonates, great. If it doesn't, great.
they want a quick fix, don't they? I think that's
Yeah.
the crux of. I don't think we're playing the long game.
Yeah, I
We're
agree.
trying to just.
I don't know. I think we are naturally in the, just back to collective consciousness. I think it's that simple. Things that you're doing, people just putting out information, it's just chipping away at that consciousness. And gradually that's building. That is being raised. But the numbers are growing. And there is going to be a tipping point in that. So I just think that things like this now are important, because over time, and I don't think a lot of time, there's going to be a tipping point, and we will manifest that very reality that we're looking for. It can't not happen.
So, as I say, if the collective consciousness is there and it's raised, and we understand this and we start living our lives in that way without actually going on to natural law and that. But that's what it's about. Basically, living your life by that, by them laws,
Yeah.
by morality, by what's right and what's wrong. And basically, what's wrong is anything that causes harm to another sentient being. It's all based on theft, basically.
Yeah.
If we're not doing that, then we should be able to do whatever it is we want, really. That's how I see it.
I agree with that, mate. I really do. And just on the, I think it's important just to, what do you do day to be sovereign? What do I do? For me, I just come down to that moment in time right now. It's always down to a choice. And the choice is as simple as how you're going to feel about any given situation. And the way I look at it is, if you succumb to the lower vibrations of fear, anxiety, all the things that they're trying to put us on, you're just giving them exactly what they want, because you're part of that collective that's manifesting the same shit, different days, same problems, nothing's changing. Versus, and I think for me, the way, because of what I've been doing, that litigating, doing things like that has helped me to energetically cut the ties with the system. And therefore, I can't feel that kind of low vibe emotion. I'm human. We all feel a little bit of stress and anxiety at the time, but my default is always, what choice am I going to make? I'd rather feel better and more positive about things going forward so I can manifest that reality than keep myself in that sort of low vibrational state. And I think, certainly I speak to a lot of people, and that's exactly where they are all the time. And it's habitual. And I think until they recognize they're in this habitual state and they keep manifesting the same old merry-go-round of shit, you've got to stop one time and make a decision to change it. And if you can't do that, then this sovereignty word doesn't really mean anything. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. If you look at where we're at now, then that shows you where our consciousness is. Because this is why we're in this state.
Yeah.
Because of our consciousness, because our consciousness hasn't been raised, because we have been in that slave mentality. We've not took time and effort, and it's hard. I've got a family, and sometimes I come in from work and I'll see my kids for half an hour and have something to eat and all that, and have a chat and what have not. And then I'm trying to read and all that because I feel like I've got a moral duty now that I'm privy to certain information to help get that out there. Because how does collective consciousness get raised if more and more people aren't actually spreading that information?
I completely agree, mate. And that's, for me, that's what this is all about right now. It's exactly that. It's, and like you, it's once you've found that little nugget of truth, you can't stop, can you? You've got to keep going. And then the more you know that like you can't then not give that information to other people. And I think like we've said this before, you've got kids. You've almost, if you forget just sharing the information, you've got a duty to your kids. You're
Yeah,
knowing
of
this
course.
information now. Do you know what I mean? It's important that they don't grow up indoctrinated like we got indoctrinated. I hammer this home to my kids all the time.
So it's just about breaking that cycle,
Yeah.
that cycle of behavior. When people truly understand who they are and the power that comes with, then we
It'd be
can
over.
change this.
It would be over
You
like
know,
that.
we can change it easily,
Yeah.
but it's not going to take me like meditating in my room on my own.
Yeah.
That's going to change it.
Yeah.
Well, while people aren't taking notice of it, I say that it's ignorance because I believe that information is out there. I could understand if it was the information isn't there for people to understand who they are, but it's abundance. People all over the world are talking about this kind of stuff and talking about natural law and everything else. So the information is there. It's just that people choose to look the other way.
I think
Or
that's the
be
point. What's that?
distracted by something else.
It becomes willful ignorance, isn't it? If you know that something exists and you choose to still remain ignorant, you're now willful.
I think that the whole ignorance thing just leads to more misery.
I
I
agree.
think if we choose to ignore it, then we're not going to manifest anything better.
Yeah, I completely agree.
So this is Frederick Douglass. He was actually a slave and he escaped, but he didn't know he was a slave. He thought that was normal
Wow.
until I took this quote. I didn't know I was a slave until I found out I couldn't do the things I wanted.
There you go, folks. How many things
You
can
know,
you
so
do that you want to do?
it's living proof that we can be brainwashed into thinking we're free and
Yeah.
these things are normal. Going to work every day, paying taxes.
That's the thing. You look at it now, the simple fact that you've got the Human Rights Act, they're giving you your rights.
It's a farce, isn't it?
You know what I mean?
That whole thing is a farce. There's no human being can grant somebody else a right.
Exactly.
That's not. It doesn't work like that. We're born with all the same rights as everybody else. There isn't. But the worst thing is, mate, and we'll probably get into it not on this video, but maybe later on when we talk about right and wrong. People basically delegate wrongs and call them right.
Yeah.
Let me give you an example of that quickly before we move on. It's like order following. So if you're in the military or something like that and you fought for your country and somebody's give you an order to bomb a building because there's 3 suspect terrorists or something, but it's a block of flats that holds hundreds of innocent people. But you bomb the hell out of that building because somebody's told you to do it and said, yeah, that's okay. We need to do that. So you're basically delegating somebody a wrong and calling it a right. Because murder is a breach of natural law, and it isn't a right. It's a wrong.
Yeah. So,
You get what I mean?
absolutely, because you have a moral duty.
Of course, but that
Say no.
doesn't exercise that morality themselves and go, hang
Yeah.
on a minute, there's kids, women, innocent people in that building. I'm not going to fly above that and drop bombs on it.
And it's that justification that it's okay because I've been ordered to do it and I'm within this infrastructure. So that's it. It's my job.
They deem it to be a right.
Yeah.
They deem it to be, I'm doing my job. And it's on a severe scale at that level. But it's only the same as somebody trying to enforce council tax. It's morally wrong, but people do it because it's their job.
Yeah.
Because they believe, well, I've got the right to do this. It doesn't reflect on me as a person, even though I might think it's morally wrong to do that. I'm just doing it because I need money to do things I want to do. But this is the problem.
Yeah, it absolutely is the problem.
That's a separate video, mate, or the following separate video. We'll do that.
It's so many things you can branch off into that are deep sort of conversations on their own.
But I just thought I would say the majority are in this mindset. I think they're slaves, not knowing, and they can't see because the prison bars are invisible.
I completely agree, mate. Completely agree.
That's the majority of people, I would argue.
I completely agree.
Going into sovereignty a bit deeper and the meaning, the etymology of words and stuff. Sovereignty, or what is also referred to as internal monarchy. Now we're talking about the internal aspect. So one ruler within. That's why they call it internal monarchy, not external monarchy, because that's the nonsense we want to get away from. One ruler externally. That's part of the slave system. So the internal monarchy is one ruler within. So the word monarchy is made up of the prefix mon, derived from the Greek adverb mons, which means one, single, alone, and the Greek noun archon, which means master, lord, ruler. Therefore, monarchy means one ruler. As a state of consciousness, sovereignty means that one has unified the 3 aspects of their consciousness in the way that there is no contradiction between one's thoughts, emotions, and actions. So that's what I was talking about in the last slide. It has to be in unison. There can't be any contradictions between thoughts, emotions, and actions. That's what it is.
Sense.
That's what it is to be sovereign, with no contradiction, no internal chaos going on. Your thoughts, emotions, and actions are completely aligned. And I would say with natural law.
And again, it just resonates because it makes they all go hand in hand. They're all connected.
This is it. And when we're talking about if people live their lives like this or begin to understand natural law and start trying to, because we're all guilty of it, even just simple things like lying, when we just say little lies for no reason, we don't have to just tell the truth. That would be a massive start if people just learn to tell the truth all the time, even though that's uncomfortable for people, because truth,
like when you say your missus's bum doesn't look fat in those things, but you really know they are.
Do these pants make my butt look big?
But you told the truth.
How this whole thing works with objective morality and objective truth and all that is there's no bend in it.
Yeah.
It's there and it's always going to be there.
It's not something that can be like they like to debate and misdirect and have all these different types of arguments. But the way I see this is it's not a debatable topic. It is what it is.
The debate on morality is one, because obviously natural law is based on objective morality and basically understanding the fundamental difference between right behavior and wrong behavior. Now that's what I want, how I want to live my life. I think that's the right thing to do. And I've always been like that. My my consciousness in that sense, even though it's been suppressed through the brainwashing, I've always wanted to do the right thing. I've always, if I feel like when you do something wrong or you have an argument or you upset someone, even something basic, I've never hurt anyone or anything like that in the sense physically, other than silly things at school, maybe. Conscience pricks you and says, you know what, you were out of order there. That always kicks in with me. So I know I'm halfway there because I want to do the right thing. Do you know what I mean? I'm not. What it is for me, if consciousness lives there, collective consciousness, we all together like stop doing them things like lying or the following and all that kind of stuff. None of this can be enforced. We become free, not overnight, but when that time happens, when enough people have been exposed to this kind of information and do their own research and gain their own knowledge, then this will just, it's like cause and effect. It'll just happen. Does that make sense?
It absolutely makes sense. And I'll tell you the one thing that really excites me is that you can start to daydream about the world that we would be living in when that happens, when that's completely unrestricted like we're in right now. Do you know what I mean? It's like it just, what comes from that as a foundational starting point, true sovereignty, it's kind of a bit mind-blowing, isn't it? Where that kind of world would go.
Oh, yeah. Well, as I say, if people, you wouldn't, I'm not saying you would stamp it out completely, but if people take on objective morality over moral relativeness, which basically people decide what's right and wrong for them, that's the world we live in now.
Mm-hmm.
Where to me, what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. That to me is objective. We don't need legislation to say don't murder anyone.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
Basically, the transgressions of natural law is basically don't steal from anybody, which is, if you're talking about murder, don't steal somebody else's life. It's their property, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
People have the free will to have sexual relations with whoever they want. Don't rape anyone. You're stealing that choice, aren't you? I know it sounds extreme, but basically don't steal from anybody. Don't steal anybody's property kind of covers everything. And
Yeah.
it's only that one thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So as long as we're not doing any of them things, we're not doing anything wrong. So we're not going to manifest this, what we've got now. It's going to be a better system. It's going to be a better world, isn't it? People, as I say, if people are exercising that sovereignty in that way, through their thoughts, emotions, and actions, and by right and wrong, it can't be any different, can it?
No.
It's going to shrivel away what we're dealing with now. This whole thing with people telling us what we can do and what we can't do is going to just diminish, isn't it?
Yep.
Like you can look at legislation, like stuff that, like Mark Passio talks about prohibition, and I think that's a perfect example where people have decided, look, we're not giving you the choice, we're just banning alcohol. I know it didn't stop it, but what they did was pass legislation to outlaw anybody drinking. Do you know what I mean? But years later, they decided that that was okay. And that kind of gives you an idea, the whim of the legislature, that they can just decide what's right and what's wrong for people. And that's not what it is.
Exactly. And that is happening at an increasing pace today, right?
It happened with, if you go back before council tax, it happened with another tax, didn't it? What was the other tax that year?
Poll tax.
Right. Poll tax. What happened there? People rebelled against it and said, no, we're not having it. And not that they were backed into a corner, weren't they? I know they've replaced and all that kind of stuff. But what I'm saying is if people collectively just say no, what can happen? If people stop enforcing their own slavery, you know, police officers, the military, public servants, civil servants, people who are basically doing the bidding of the government, it's only a small few here that perceive themselves as the authority to dictate to people. It's like if you talk about Hitler, Hitler on his own was just a nutcase. It was only because people carried out his visions and his ideologies that that kind of stuff happened. If people said, "Hang on a minute, that's morally wrong, I'm not doing that," what would have happened? Hitler would have
Exactly.
just
It just wouldn't have happened. I
what do
mean,
you mean?
that's how simple this is right now to change it. And I know it's not going to happen like this, but if everybody just let go of the energy attachment to the matrix and just said, "I ain't paying taxes anymore. It's not going to do it," it would be over. It's like we are the prison guards of our own damn prison. And the thing about the prison is you can't touch it or feel it, yet it's there. And it's either ignorance. I mean, there's obviously some people that enjoy doing this shit and suppressing people. That's definitely true. But from our point of view, all we've got to do is just disconnect energetically from it. It's not tangible. It's not real. It just exists up here. So the collective consciousness creates the prison and then the prison guards to enforce that prison. But equally, that collective consciousness with a higher vibration opens the doors to the prison. I mean, I think we're on the same. That's how simple I see it. But yet,
I think it is
bloody
that
hard.
simple, but I think you have to understand and you have to have the knowledge, I believe. It's not something where you can just listen to someone say, "Look, this is what sovereignty is." You know, there's the keys to freedom. There's natural law, there's sovereignty, there's everything, without going too much into natural law.
Can I ask a quick question on that on this topic? Because it occurred to me that if you're waking up in the system, and, you're coming aware of this word sovereignty and what it actually means. It's almost like, yeah, you are born sovereign, but you've got to earn not the right. I don't know what the right word is. You've almost got to earn that back, if that makes any sense. Like you can't do the internal work without, how do I put it? Putting yourself out there, taking some actions. Like for me, my sovereignty, my comprehension of it has come because of how I've woken up and I've been battling all these different things and blah, 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 blah. But it's doing that and realizing just how bullshit the whole thing is that created a
Sovereign,
situation where I disconnected. Does that make sense?
it makes sense, mate. Yeah, I mean, sovereignty in a nutshell.
You've got to earn that back, is what I'm trying to say. You can't just
With,
click your
with your
fingers to it.
thoughts, emotions, and actions, that's what you have to bring in unison. And you know, with the morality side of things and with the right and wrong behavior, that's what it is. It's about action more than anything.
Yeah. Click your
With your
fingers to it.
thoughts, emotions, and actions, that's what you have to bring in unison. And, you know, with the morality side of things and with the right and wrong behavior, that's what it is. It's about action more than anything.
Yeah.
But your thoughts, everything manifests through your thoughts and emotions and then actions in that order. So you can't act on anything that wasn't a thought first.
Correct.
That's why we can't just basically non-compliant can't just happen with people just deciding to act. It has to start from a thought.
Yeah.
Collectively, we
Yeah.
have to do that. So that to me is that we have to understand natural law. We have to understand the brainwashing cycle that we've been. That's everything that we have to undone. So in terms of it being a quick fix, no, it's not. It's a lot of shadow work and a lot of learned behavior that you've got to break. All the lying for no reason when it's just simpler to tell the truth. Just simple things like that. And then recognizing in yourself, like maybe wrong behavior or where you contradict your own sovereignty. if that makes sense. It's
Yeah,
like
it does.
if I was a police officer and I was privy to this information now, I'd be questioning my own moral compass with what's going on. Do I really want to? My action would be to just leave the police force, because there's no way that I would be an acting officer enforcing this kind of rule, this kind of, like slave mentality, because that's all they're doing. They're just doing the bidding for the government to keep us as a collective enslaved. Do you know what I mean? Because this is only a problem because people enforce it. War, whatever it is, it's because people take orders. It's not. I know this sounds crazy, but everyone's like, oh, prime ministers are, he's out of order doing this, that, and the other, or a small minority of people who we believe have some sort of power, but they don't have any power. It's because from the top of the pyramid, as it goes down, these orders, people acquiesce to other people's authority. Do you get what I mean?
100%,
So
mate.
the order comes from the top, from a small few, and then the people below acquiesce. They impose on the next level, and they acquiesce to that authority. That's the problem. It's because even though we're like, oh, we're not slaves. Well, we are, because we're acquiescing to this nonsense. We're accepting states of war, perpetual fucking states of war. When do you ever know a time when some kind of conflict was going on in the world?
In my lifetime, there hasn't been. There's
There
always been a
hasn't been
bit.
many, has there?
Yeah,
There's something been going on. Someone's been invading someone else, or some sort of underhand stuff going on. This is what, as a collective, we need to start calling out, because it's wrong. Murder is morally wrong, and it doesn't matter that you stick a uniform on and take orders from someone else as a job to do something because they're telling you you're protecting, the nation or whatever it is. Basically bullshit. You should be taking that sovereignty and deciding yourself to say, it's not hard, is it? Don't kill anyone.
it's not hard, but I think the problem is like, like you were talking about, maybe certain people in the police forces, if they heard this, they would, if it was you, you'd leave. But I think they also profile people on the basis that, for every 10 people that were there that watched this, one might leave, but the rest wouldn't.
My biggest issue is that people don't understand the fundamental differences between wrong and right behavior, between moral and immoral behavior. That's the problem, because none of this stuff would matter. People could be given orders left, right, and center. But if people say, no, I'm not doing that because it's morally wrong, that's you exercising your own sovereignty. That's your thoughts, emotions, and actions being in unison with natural law, because murder is a transgression.
It's also having,
law.
it's also having the courage to do that, even like knowing there might be some repercussions for saying, no, I'm not going to do that. So you're morally superior in your decision, but there might be some comeback from that. And I think that's the other part of it. Internal sovereignty, it's also, in this world right now, does require courage. Because there are people that would like, I'm sovereign, but they'll know that if they're going to say no in a certain situation to enforce their own sovereignty, the system doesn't like that. So what I'm trying to say is that I think there's an element there's courage involved in this. And again, if you line a lot of people up, we've seen it in the last few years. There's not many courageous people out there. And I think that's where not where the problem lies, but I think the way this will happen is because it does resonate and they do go further into the rabbit hole.
I don't believe, the majority of people are condoning purposely what's going on. I'm not suggesting that, You know, there is other elements, but what I'm saying is it's about calling that out. You can't. I've been guilty of it. You know, probably everybody's been guilty of it. If it's not happening anywhere near you, that you can just turn the other cheek. That's not what it's about. It's about action. It's about saying that's wrong. That's morally wrong. And everybody has to come together for that. I'm not saying that this is going to, happen overnight. It won't. But if we continue to ignore that and turn the other cheek when things like that are going on, which are just basically morally wrong, we can't manifest anything better for ourselves. It's always going to be this because people will accept it. You know, they will accept moral relativism. They will accept that members of the military have that obligation to do that, and they're well within their rights to do that because they've been given orders. We're just getting back to that whole like superstition of authority of what we perceive. You're obviously, I'm under the dominion of another, so whatever you tell me to do, I'll do, even if that's morally wrong, even if that's made.
Yeah,
it's mate. This isn't easy. It's a bitter pill to swallow because people don't want to face the truth.
Yeah.
They don't like objective truth. They're looking for ways out to give them the green light to act how they've acted and for that to be all right. It isn't. It just isn't. You can't. If you want to be sovereign, if you want to live your life by the rules of natural law, then you have to make them choices. Internal sovereignty is about fundamentally choosing right behavior over wrong behavior. That's what it is. There can't be any contradiction. You can't say, well, my job involves this, and if somebody says do this, that's not sovereign. That's not exercising sovereignty, is it? Because you're willingly taking orders from somebody else to do something you know is morally wrong and a breach of natural law because you've taken somebody's life. So, it's not self-defense, is it? It's not somebody who's attacked you and you've defended yourself, which isn't a transgression of natural law. You've basically took someone's life. You bombed the building with 3 people that you believe to be terrorists, and there's like 2,000 innocent people in there, men, women, and children. Is that morally right? In what world is that morally right? That's what you've got. That's what you've got to distinguish between. It's like another thing is like, what's morally acceptable? This is what moral relativism is. It's basically saying, well, yeah, in England, we don't beat our children, or maybe somebody in the world, that's acceptable. No, it's not. It's not.
It's just wrong. Yeah.
It's just, this is the problem.
Yeah.
This is like, oh, well, here, they do this. Okay, so that's acceptable then. You're going to turn the other cheek because it's a different culture. Got nothing to do with culture. That's just more learned behavior. Religion, whatever it is. This is going to split hairs, mate.
Oh, I get it. I mean, that's why natural laws are
upset people. But the object truth is squeamish for a lot of people because they don't want to accept. They want to be like, yeah, but it's my job. I'm just doing my job. It's not, I wouldn't really do it. Well, whatever mask you're wearing, you're doing the same stuff. It doesn't matter. Religion, culture, where you were born, whatever, it doesn't matter. To beat someone, to beat your children is morally wrong.
Right.
However way you look at it.
To bankrupt people because you work in the council when you know that there's no judgment provable in a court because you know it wasn't even a court is morally wrong.
Well, yeah. But
right?
Again,
to try and put people in prison when you know there's no way that you can do that, there's no legal form to do it. That's morally wrong. That's following orders. That's making a choice.
Unfortunately, within the legal system and under man's written laws based on dogma, that's where you're off.
Yeah.
Because they'll just make it up. You're a slave, aren't you? This is the whole point of this, to be honest. in that system, you're not anything else. You certainly aren't sovereign.
Exactly.
Nobody. This is why it's a total oxymoron of saying, like, you know, I'm writing a document to send to the courts to tell them I'm sovereign. It's nonsense.
Yeah.
You know, everybody on this planet is sovereign, whether they like it or not, whether they know it or they don't know it. We are all capable of bringing our thoughts, emotions, and actions together for the greater good, to instill moral behavior, to understand the difference between right and wrong behavior, by basically not stealing anybody's property, by not murdering anyone, by not trespassing on anyone. Do you get what I mean? It's not, I know everybody wants to make a big deal out of it because that win in this bullshit legal system isn't with this straight away. You don't wake up tomorrow and go, yeah, I'll just roll into court in my pajamas and tell the judge I'm sovereign and it's just going to go away. That system just needs to disappear. And with the collective consciousness being raised to these levels, it's inevitable because of cause and effect.
Completely agree, mate. We'd have to just park it on that one.
Yeah.
And then we'll, in fact, make a note of cause and effect because that's something dear to my heart as well. And I think very relevant to this. Hang on.
There's loads, everything, like basically principle, your own principles. That's a good starting point because that becomes, that comes before anything else. If you haven't got principles, then you are obviously in the camp of not understanding the rights between, the difference between right and wrong behavior.
Yeah.
In a nutshell, mate, that's what it is. Sovereignty isn't to win a big legal battle. Sovereignty, exercising sovereignty, especially internal sovereignty, is understanding right and wrong behavior. Understanding that people flexing authority over another is wrong behavior. Somebody in a court supposedly there for justice telling you that, you know, you've broke a law. It's wrong, isn't it? It's not a law. It's legislation. Law is basically immutable. Law is the law of gravity. Can man write a law like that?
No.
Laws, the laws surrounding nature. Do you know what I mean? What it boils down to as well with natural law is if you breach natural law, you're going to get something.
Fuck it, mate.
If you ever of a drug baron to ride off into the sunset with his money and his family and everything else, what happens to them all? These people who murder people and sell drugs and do all that nasty, horrible stuff, how does it end for them?
Dead
or in jail forever.
Yeah.
Usually dead.
Dead, yeah. It's generally the most common. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Cause and effect.
Well, exactly. It's outside of our hands. We don't control that. For a man to come along and say, I write law, is just ridiculous, isn't it?
It's the whole thing.
Right is whatever you want to write to control people, to enslave people.
Anything created by man that restricts, and I'm not saying it's in a sexist way, but that restricts men or man from doing anything, or tells man how to behave, is it's asserting an authority that they don't have, and therefore by default is slavery. That's the starting point of the very matrix that we're in. You know,
we've spoke about loads of good stuff there, but we're going down rabbit holes. What I want this video to be about is sovereignty, because we bounce off each other. We could talk like this for probably about 10 hours.
Easily. And I get exactly what you mean, because I've just realised as well, I've got to keep my fucking mouth shut. Because when you're saying stuff, oh, that's interesting, and I'll naturally ask questions, you know.
We're on slide 320. I want it to be sovereignty, principles, what's right and wrong, moral behaviour, transgressions of natural law, objective morality, objective truth, or the following video.
Ever grappled with the labyrinth that is the legal system? It's a maze of jargon, procedures, and power plays that can stump even the most intelligent among us. Enter How to Win in Court, a transformative course designed to level the playing field, brought to you by the dynamic partnership of Sovereign Empowerment and Dr. Frederick Graves. This course is like a compass, guiding you through the intricate passages of the legal system. It provides powerful case-winning strategies and tools for controlling solicitors and persuading judges. This isn't just about understanding the law, it's about empowering you to use the law to your advantage. This comprehensive course eliminates guesswork and empowers you to navigate the legal landscape with confidence. Imagine having step-by-step instructions at your fingertips, demystifying the complex world of court cases. With How to Win in Court, that's precisely what you'll get. There's a treasure trove of sample forms, video seminars, audio clips, and comprehensive classes waiting for you. Finally, you'll have all the tools you need to persuade and control judges in any case or court. The beauty of this course is its accessibility. Whether you're an early bird or a night owl, you can dive into the course material anytime with round-the-clock online access. And no matter the device, be it your smartphone, tablet, or laptop, you'll have seamless access to the course. You'll also gain access to invaluable tools like the free online legal research tool, legal dictionary, and a Q&A forum. Learn from a seasoned attorney with over 40 years of winning experience who has distilled his expertise into this comprehensive program. These resources are like having a personal legal advisor, always ready to assist you, but without having to pay exorbitant legal fees. For those struggling to afford a solicitor, this course is a beacon of hope. Good people have suffered too long at the hands of power because they didn't know how to fight back, or they didn't have access to the right resources. Now, in a matter of just a few days, you can acquire the tools and the knowledge that it takes law students years to achieve. With the right knowledge and tools, you'll be able to navigate the legal waters with confidence, winning your case without expensive legal representation. Alternatively, if you already have a solicitor, you can equip them with the tools and tactics to fight effectively on your behalf. Level the playing field and secure your victory. And the cherry on top? Upon course completion, you'll receive an honorary law degree, a testament to your newfound legal prowess. No matter what court, civil or criminal, you'll be able to conquer any courtroom challenge with ease. This step-by-step guidance ensures a quick and straightforward learning experience, empowering you to navigate the legal system with bulletproof confidence. That's right, the power to navigate the legal system is now within your reach. All it takes is the will to learn and the courage to empower yourself. Everyone deserves access to the right legal knowledge. That's why we offer the jurisdictionary law course at an unbeatable price. For less than the cost of a 1-hour legal consultation, you'll gain unlimited access to this complete program for up to 2 full years. Take control of your legal battles without breaking the bank. So why wait? Enroll in the jurisdictionary course today and take that first step towards legal empowerment. How to Win in Court has become the most trusted law course worldwide for almost 30 years. Don't miss out on this exclusive opportunity to gain the upper hand in the courtroom. Your journey to mastering the legal system starts here. When you have access to the right resources, you will become a force to be reckoned with in any courtroom. So click the link now to become empowered with all the information you'll ever need to know how to win in court. Learn how to use the court system that is there to protect you, your family, your property, and most of all, your rights.